You know their faces, you've seen their work, but what you didn't see was the courage it took to live their truth. These 25 LGBTQ+ actors didn't just play roles, they rewrote the rules. Behind every performance was a story of strength, fear, and finally, freedom. They didn't just come out, they stepped up and changed everything. Kevin McHale sang and danced his way into millions of hearts on Glee as the wheelchair-bound Artie. But in real life, he was still learning how to live openly. When he came out in 2018, it wasn't with a press release or a tearful interview. It was with a single Instagram post of him and his boyfriend. Since then, he's spoken about how much more powerful and joyful life has become when he stopped hiding. Fame may have introduced him to the world, but truth gave him his voice. Victor Garber has been a Broadway staple and screen chameleon for decades. Think Titanic, Alias, and Godspell. But for years, he let the rumors swirl, never confirming or denying his private life. When he finally acknowledged his longtime partner, Rainer Andreessen, in 2012, it wasn't with drama, it was with quiet pride. His coming out was a gentle affirmation that love, lived fully and without shame, speaks louder than headlines. Long before LGBTQ+ representation was a trending topic in Hollywood, Wilson Cruz was making history and taking real risks. In the early 1990s, he became one of the very first openly gay actors to portray an openly gay teen on network television, with his role as Ricky Vasquez on My So-Called Life. It wasn't just a role, it was a revolution. Cruz didn't just act with courage, he lived it. Coming out as gay to his family led to a period of homelessness, but he persevered, turning personal struggle into purposeful activism. Today, Cruz is a powerful voice for LGBTQ+ youth, particularly queer youth of color, using his platform to fight for inclusion, visibility, and dignity. His legacy is one of bravery, honesty, and unstoppable heart. Jim Parsons brought us the brilliant, socially awkward Sheldon Cooper on The Big Bang Theory, a role that earned him 4 Emmys and made him the highest-paid TV actor in the world. But it was his real-life courage that truly resonated. In 2012, after years of success, he casually came out in a New York Times article, shattering the myth that being openly gay might derail a career. It didn't. In fact, his career only soared higher. Parsons became a role model for countless LGBTQ+ people in Hollywood and beyond, showing that talent, truth, and success can coexist unapologetically. With a quiet grace and a genuine presence, Parsons helped change the face of mainstream television, simply by being himself. With his Broadway baritone, chiseled jawline, and everyman charm, Cheyenne Jackson seemed born for stardom, and he wears it with sincerity. From Xanadu to Glee to American Horror Story, Jackson has shown his range, his heart, and his pride. As an openly gay man in the entertainment industry, he hasn't just played roles, he's lived his truth out loud. Whether he's singing show tunes or playing a conflicted character, Jackson brings authenticity and emotional depth to every performance. Off-screen, he's been a mental health advocate, a devoted husband, and a proud father of twins. Cheyenne Jackson is more than a performer. He's a reminder that love, talent, and honesty belong center stage. When T.R. Knight came out publicly in 2006, it sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Not just because he was a rising star on Grey's Anatomy, but because he did it in the midst of controversy and under intense public scrutiny. While others may have stayed silent, Knight chose to be honest. His boldness inspired others, even as it cost him roles and led to his eventual departure from the show. But Knight never wavered. Instead, he carved a path grounded in integrity, returning to the stage and continuing to act with quiet intensity. His story isn't just one of coming out, it's one of standing tall, even when the spotlight turns cold. T.R. Knight reminded the world that visibility matters, and that living authentically is worth the fight. Dan Levy didn't just co-create a hit series, He built a safe, joyful universe where queerness wasn't met with tragedy, but with warmth, wit, and wonder. Schitt's Creek broke barriers not by preaching, but by normalizing. His character, David Rose, was unapologetically pansexual, fashionable, and emotionally complex, and audiences embraced him wholeheartedly. Off-screen, Dan became a beacon of hope for LGBTQ+ storytellers, using his platform to advocate for queer rights and more inclusive narratives in entertainment. Levy's genius lies in how he rewrote the rules, not by erasing the past, but by envisioning a future where being gay doesn't have to come with pain. Sometimes it just comes with love, laughter, and a really great sweater. Once the babyface prodigy and Doogie Howser MD, Neil made an unexpected comeback as the ultimate womanizer in How I Met Your Mother. But behind the scenes, he was living a completely different reality, one filled with love, truth, and a partner he would eventually marry. Today, he's a dad of twins, a Broadway darling, and proof that gay actors can play anything, including straight characters, if given the chance. Elliot's coming out as transgender in 2020 was more than news. It was a cultural shift. From Juno to Inception, he had already earned our admiration, but his raw and fearless vulnerability, sharing his story despite the risks, made him a real-life hero to millions. His presence on screen, now as a trans man, is groundbreaking in ways that go far beyond Hollywood. Billy doesn't walk, he floats. Whether it's in a tuxedo gown at the Oscars or as Pray Tell in Pose, he brings full heart and soul. But his life wasn't always so fabulous. He grew up poor, black, and gay in Pittsburgh. Diagnosed with HIV in 2007, he kept it secret for years. Today, he's not just a fashion icon, he's a survivor, a symbol of resilience and the voice of unapologetic queerness. He had the looks of a classic Hollywood heartthrob, and the closet to match. For years, Matt stayed silent, afraid of losing roles. When he finally came out in 2012, while accepting an award, it felt quiet, graceful, and long overdue. He's now a proud father of 3, proving that being gay doesn't mean choosing between family and fame. When he lit up screens as the rakish Viscount Bridgerton, no one guessed the man beneath the cravat was gay in real life. Jonathan once said that agents advised him to stay closeted, but he chose the harder road. And now, he's inspiring a new generation of queer actors who want to play leads without hiding. Luke Evans never fit the mold, and that's exactly why he thrived. Born in Wales, raised in a working-class family, and trained in musical theater, Luke broke barriers just by being himself. While others in Hollywood stayed in the closet for fear of losing leading man roles, Luke came out early in his career, then went on to slay dragons, woo women on screen, and lead action blockbusters anyway. He played Dracula, a hardened soldier, and even Gaston in Beauty and the Beast. Through it all, he proved that masculinity isn't threatened by queerness. It can be enriched by it. Off-screen, Luke is private but proud, showing young actors that authenticity isn't a career killer, it's a superpower. Ben Whishaw is the kind of actor who moves through roles like water, fluid, quiet, and profoundly deep. Whether playing Q in Skyfall, the young Bob Dylan in I'm Not There, or a closeted man navigating heartbreak in A Very English Scandal, he's mastered the art of vulnerability. In real life, Ben exudes the same gentle introspection. When he came out in 2013, there was no dramatic headline, no splashy magazine cover, just a quiet confirmation. And in that stillness, there was strength. Today, he continues to choose meaningful roles that explore identity, love, and silence, gently shifting the conversation around queer masculinity in film. With his unmistakable ears and soulful eyes, Russell Tovey carved out a place in television where queer characters weren't just sidekicks, they were human. A boy from Essex who once believed he had to act straighter to succeed, Russell struggled with internalized shame. But as he matured, he stopped editing himself. From the raw intimacy of looking to the futuristic brilliance of Years and Years, Russell began to channel his truth into his art. Off-screen, he's become an advocate for mental health and LGBTQ+ youth, showing that masculinity can wear many faces, and some of them cry, laugh, and love men. Sometimes it takes loss to ignite purpose. For Zachary Quinto, that moment came in 2011 after the suicide of Jamie Rodemeyer, a gay teenager driven to despair by bullying. Already privately out, Zachary realized his silence wasn't enough. "It became clear to me that living an authentic life is a political act," he wrote. From that moment, he became a fierce advocate, using his visibility as Star Trek's Spock to reach those who felt invisible. Whether starring in American Horror Story or speaking out on equality, Zachary brings a quiet intensity to everything he does, fueled by empathy, loss, and hope. Before he was Gandalf, he was just Ian, a closeted man living in fear. But when the UK proposed Section 28, a law banning the promotion of homosexuality, Ian McKellen chose to speak out. He came out publicly at 49 and never stopped fighting. He helped co-found Stonewall UK, became a Knight of the Realm, and redefined what it meant to age with pride. With unmatched gravitas and twinkling wit, Sir Ian has become more than a legend. He's a mentor, an icon, and a warrior in a velvet blazer. He doesn't just represent LGBTQ people, he lifts them up. When Prison Break made Wentworth Miller a global sensation, fans knew his character, but not the man. Behind the piercing eyes was someone trapped by secrets, trauma, and shame. Years of depression and suicidal thoughts nearly consumed him. In 2013, he came out publicly through a letter rejecting Russia's anti-gay policies. That letter wasn't just a statement, it was a declaration of survival. Since then, Wentworth has become an outspoken mental health advocate, using his journey to help others fight theirs. Today, he doesn't just break out of prisons, he helps others escape the ones inside themselves. Ezra Miller refuses to fit into a box, and that's exactly the point. Identifying as non-binary and queer, Ezra rose to fame with roles in The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Fantastic Beasts, and The Flash. Their style is androgynous, their interviews unpredictable, and their presence unforgettable. While their path hasn't been without turbulence, legal issues, controversies, and criticism, Ezra has opened conversations that Hollywood long avoided. They show that queerness can be loud, messy, and magnetic, and that visibility comes in many forms, not all of them polished. Ezra's journey is still unfolding, but one thing is certain, they demand to be seen. Ezra Miller refuses to fit into a box, and that's exactly the point. Identifying as non-binary and queer, Ezra rose to fame with roles in The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Fantastic Beasts, and The Flash. Their style is androgynous, their interviews unpredictable, and their presence unforgettable. While their path hasn't been without turbulence, legal issues, controversies, and criticism, Ezra has opened conversations that Hollywood long avoided. They show that queerness can be loud, messy, and magnetic, and that visibility comes in many forms, not all of them polished. Ezra's journey is still unfolding, but one thing is certain, they demand to be seen. Long before it was safe, B.D. Wong made history. In 1988, he won a Tony for M. Butterfly, playing a character that blurred gender and identity with astonishing complexity. And he did it as an openly gay Asian American actor in an industry that barely saw either. Whether playing doctors, scientists, or psychiatrists, B.D. brings a calm strength to every role. Off-screen, he's a powerful voice for LGBTQ+ Asian Americans, often overlooked in mainstream narratives. In a world that once asked him to choose between his truth and his career, he chose both, and paved the way for others to follow. Guillermo Diaz didn't grow up with role models who looked like him, or loved like him. A child of Cuban immigrants raised in the Bronx, he found refuge in acting. He went from indie comedies to scene-stealing roles on Scandal, where he played Huck, a character as complicated as his own journey. Early in his career, Guillermo feared coming out would end everything. But being closeted felt worse. He eventually embraced who he was and watched his career flourish. Now, he brings every ounce of his identity to his work: Latino, gay, resilient. In Guillermo's story, we find not just representation, but revolution. As one half of a twin-acting duo, Charlie Carver built a name in shows like Teen Wolf and The Leftovers. But behind the scenes, he was afraid that coming out would kill his momentum. In 2016, he posted a deeply personal essay on Instagram that stunned fans with its raw honesty. "I used to wonder if I'd be less desirable, less cool, less interesting," he wrote. Instead, he found freedom and became an icon for younger queer actors facing the same fears. Tuck Watkins has lived many lives, on screen and off. He first became a household name through daytime television, playing charming and often shirtless roles on soaps like One Life to Live and General Hospital. But behind the scenes, his journey was anything but scripted. For years, Tuck quietly built a career as a versatile actor, appearing in comedies like Parks and Recreation and the campy cult hit The Mummy, while also delivering emotional depth in dramas like Desperate Housewives. Still, one thing remained off limits: his truth. That changed in 2013, when Tuck came out publicly in a brave and heartfelt interview. Not only did he reveal that he was gay, but he also shared that he had become a single father of twins through surrogacy. "I realized I wanted to become a dad more than I wanted to meet the right guy," he said at the time, a revelation that resonated with many LGBTQ+ people who have had to choose between family dreams and societal expectations. And then came the role and the romance that changed everything. In 2018, Tuck starred in the Broadway revival and later the Netflix film of The Boys in the Band, opposite Andrew Rannells. The two played a couple on stage, but something deeper began to blossom in real life. Soon after, Tuck and Andrew became a real-life couple, one of the most beloved gay duos in Hollywood, blending Broadway charisma with sitcom warmth. What makes Tuck so inspiring isn't just that he came out, it's how he's lived since. As an actor, father, and partner, he leads with joy, honesty, and a quiet confidence that says, you can be exactly who you are and still have the life you dreamed of. In a world that still puts pressure on gay men to fit a mold, Tuck Watkins reminds us that authenticity is always the most attractive trait of all. Andrew Rannells lights up every room he enters, not just with his megawatt smile and Broadway-trained voice, but with an energy that feels like joy personified. Best known for originating the role of Elder Price in the Book of Mormon, Andrew quickly became one of the most celebrated stage performers of his generation. But beyond the bravado and high notes was a gay kid from Omaha, Nebraska, who once struggled to see where he fit into the world. Andrew's path to fame wasn't handed to him. He hustled for years, doing voiceover work, auditions, and smaller gigs before his big break. When the Book of Mormon hit Broadway, he didn't just land a role, he landed a phenomenon. Suddenly, here was a proudly gay actor leading a massive Tony-winning musical without toning himself down or hiding his truth. He carried that honesty into television, playing unforgettable roles in Girls, The New Normal, and Black Monday, always bringing wit, warmth, and just the right amount of vulnerability. He was never interested in just playing the gay best friend. He played complex men, flawed, funny, and real. In his memoir, Too Much Is Not Enough, Andrew opened up about his own coming-of-age struggles, his sexuality, and the uneasy dance between ambition and identity. It was candid, touching, and deeply human. Just like him. And then came Tuck Watkins. In 2018, Andrew starred opposite Tuck in the Broadway revival of The Boys in the Band, portraying a couple on stage. Offstage, life began to imitate art. What started as a working relationship turned into a slow-blooming romance. Andrew, who had once written about feeling lonely and unsure he'd ever find a partner, found exactly that, with someone who not only shared his passion for storytelling but also embraced fatherhood and love with quiet strength. Now, Andrew and Tuck are one of the most beloved openly gay couples in Hollywood. They show up at events together, post silly videos, support each other's work, and, perhaps most beautifully, they show us what queer love can look like. Supportive, grounded, and joyfully ordinary. Andrew Rannells reminds us that being loud, bright, and unapologetically yourself doesn't mean giving up on love or stability. In fact, sometimes it's the very thing that brings it to your door. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Whether you stayed for a few seconds, watched all the way through, dropped a like, or left a kind comment, you made a difference, and I felt it.